the best way to warm people up is to care about them, know about them, talk about them. Absolutely. Love it.
Welcome to the Side Hustle Lounge. If you're looking for flexible ways to earn income, grow your mindset, and live the lifestyle you've always dreamed of, you're in the right place. So lower the lights, grab your favorite beverage, and join your host, founder of NotaryCoach.com and Amazon best-selling author of Sign and Thrive, How to Make Six Figures as a Mobile Notary and Loan Signing Agent, Bill Soroka.
Cheers, and welcome to our guest today, Sandra Long. Sandra is a LinkedIn expert. She's a speaker. She's a best-selling author, and she's also co-author of a book with me called Supercharge Your Notary Business with LinkedIn. And today, we're talking about why LinkedIn matters for your business and personal branding. Sandra, thank you so much for joining me on the new podcast.
Hey, Bill, I am so excited to be here.
I love whenever we get together and can geek out on something that we are totally passionate about. You know, I'm passionate about my business, you're passionate about yours, and they come together so well. LinkedIn has been such a game changer in my business. I've shared my story where I have like 26 different business ventures that failed or didn't work out. And this notary business, this mobile notary and loan signing business has been an epic success for me. And part of that was kind of pulling my head out of my rear end, getting focused, adopting morning routines and daily habits that I called my daily do's. And those were 10 habits that I did every single day to cultivate relationships that led to a multiple six-figure business venture for me. And 8 of those 10 daily do's I could do utilizing LinkedIn. So LinkedIn was a critical tool in my my toolbox of success. And I love that you and I have connected on this. I love how passionate you are about this. You're a leading expert on LinkedIn, traveling, or before the pandemic, traveling, speaking to Fortune 500 companies, helping people really dial in their profile and start the connection process and cultivating relationships. So one of the questions that we get all the time, Sandra, and you and I do live calls a lot with notaries and other people in other industries, is why should LinkedIn be the place I go? Why would we use LinkedIn in the first place?
Well, such a great question, and it is the starting point. And I love that your story, I think, really resonates with so many people, that you're really authentic, and you talk about the fact that you had these failures, and what seemed to turn everything around was your new habits. And the fact is, a big part of your new habits was involved with relationship building, right? And reaching people and having like a systematic approach to, how you brand yourself and how you connect with people. So it's such a great story of exactly what to illustrate the power of LinkedIn. And every single person, no matter what industry, whether you work for a corporation and you have a side business, or whether you're juggling multiple businesses, people will connect with you on LinkedIn. They'll get their impression of you. That's where they form that opinion. And certainly staying top of mind, all of those opportunities are there. And you definitely harness that when you talk about your morning routine, which I love.
Yeah, that's exactly right. LinkedIn allowed me to stay in touch and engaged with people. So even when I wasn't necessarily reaching out to sell myself or sell my services, I could support people. So I wouldn't be, quote unquote, that guy, right? That only reached out to sell something. It allowed me to interact, to comment, to like, to share, to bring value to them so that we could form a relationship. And then when the time was right, I could pitch my services. I could say, hey, I think I could help you here. Or, hey, how can we help each other? How can I support you in your business is one of the best questions I learned how to ask.
Well, it's so great that you're saying this, because we all have experienced people that do that are interacting on LinkedIn in a way that's really a turnoff. And exactly what you said is the way to approach it, is to be that friend, to be that helpful expert, to be interested in other people. And that is how you attract people to you. And I love what you're saying.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. And I just had a recent scenario I want to run past you too. But first, let's talk about, and let's blend these two, like how there is a way to connect that feeds or fuels the dream. And there's a way to connect that cuts people off. It just turns people off, as you mentioned. How does that work?
So
that's a good way to connect.
Yeah, connecting is well, I should say your profile, setting up your profile is really the beginning, or understanding your brand. But then immediately after that, it's building out a strategic network. And to me, that starts even before you connect. It's starting with thinking about who should you connect with. So making sure you are connecting with people that you know or that you've known in your past. Those are going to be valuable opportunities for you to reconnect with, because they already know you. They know you on some level. And then it gets to your point, is how do you actually do those invitations? And I'm a big believer in making the invitations personal and about that person, not about you. So if I'm going to invite you to connect, Bill, I want to look at your profile. I want to have some familiarity with who you are, maybe understand what we have in common, who we know together, maybe I read some of your posts, things like that, so that when I am inviting you to connect, it is friendly and it's about you. Now, of course, most of the time I'm inviting people to connect, it's because I know them. I've had a conversation. I've met them on Zoom. We met at an event. And then the natural follow-up is to send a friendly connection request saying that you enjoyed meeting them, something like that. But it should be friendly and helpful, right?
I love that you take this approach. And this is super rare. I get tons of requests to connect on a daily basis. And I love that you personalize it to the relationship. So what do you say to people who don't do that? What do you say to people who just seem to click connect, and they don't add those personal messages that are personalized to that individual? What do you say to them?
Well, first of all, if you just are sending an invite without a message, it's faster, but it's a wasted opportunity, because we're here to create an impression and to build a relationship, right? So why not use that amazing tool that a person will get to know you or get to know that you're interested in them, something that will resonate with them. So when so that it's just a wasted opportunity. And then of course, the other side of it are those messages that you get, which is like a connect and pitch, which are to me a complete turnoff. I'm going to delete that person. I'm not interested. If that's how they're approaching me, then that's not what I'm interested in. What do you do about that when someone pitches you right away?
So this is really interesting. I'm glad you brought it up. This is what I wanted to talk to you about. So it's a huge turnoff to me. And it's interesting too, because I really do appreciate very direct communication. Like I like warm, friendly. I like it up to be authentic. I like some personality, and I like to get right to the point. And I don't like to be sold in the first message or even the second message sometimes, because I feel, and this just recently happened. So Sandra, I'd love to hear your feedback on this too. I had somebody reach out to me. They had a very nice personal message like, hey, I see that you work with this organization. I think that's great. Let's connect. And I'm like, all right. He actually looked at my profile. He's got similar, youth leadership and empowerment passion. So we connected. And the very first message was it sounded, it was very well written, but it was a canned sales approach designed for executives. And I was like, it's funny because I kind of get my hopes up that this is going to be a new connection and that we're going to connect on this way. And I'm thinking it's real and authentic, but then I get a sales pitch and I'm like, I'm not. So I feel let down. There's, it's kind of, it feels almost naive and childish on my part, but that is part of who I am, so I felt kind of let down. I'm like, thanks. I'm not really looking for that right now. And then I got another message well, if you don't mind if I ask why, da 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 da. And I was like, well, I'm just not looking for that right now. And then I got another one. And finally I just said, well, if I'm really honest about it, I have an appreciation for being pitched and sold to this early in a relationship. And the response was totally understand. And that was it. So how would you feel about being that direct and actually sharing that? Do you think that's a misstep, or is it okay to call somebody out?
Okay, there's a lot in here. So really good little example, which I think we've all faced. So first of all, you didn't do anything wrong by calling it out. I mean, I think, I've seen people be very blunt. I've called it out in a friendly way, but I would say most likely I'm going to be disconnecting from the person. And the other thing, because they really aren't, it's just such a as you said, it's very deflating. You get this nice first message, and then all of a sudden they're pitching you. There's no interest in you. So the other thing, it sounds like the particular example you mentioned, it sounds like they were using automation. And I really, really want to caution everyone about that. So there are tools out there that companies, a lot of little startup companies will create these tools. They'll say, oh, you can automate your messages. You can send out 300 a day or whatever they'll say. And it creates what you experience, where they get those messages that are all sequenced. Couple things about that. First of all, they're not allowed to be used by LinkedIn. And their LinkedIn is very, very serious about this. And I have, especially in the last few months, there are people that I know that have had their accounts shut down because they use this tool. And even, so anytime anyone offers you LinkedIn automation, anything to do with posting or viewing profiles, you want to stay away from it. Even if the developer says, oh, it's fine, it's really putting your account at risk. The only type of automation that you can use properly and that's acceptable by LinkedIn is the kind where you get help with posting, like a Hootsuite or something like that, where it's somewhat of an automation tool to post. Otherwise, don't use them. So it sounds like the person who sent you those messages had signed up for this, and that's what you experience. And it's such a turnoff, right?
Yeah, it really is. And that's a really good point too. And I run into this a lot too, because people are looking for templates, when they just want to know what to say when you reach out. And in a relationship, in a one-on-one personal business relationship, there's not really a templated way. You can have a framework for kind of how a conversation goes, but people already know that. You already know that. You know how to have a conversation. You just got to find a way to reach out.
Think about if you went to a networking event. Can you imagine if you went there with a template in your head and you met someone and you said, and you start spitting out about your product? It would be it's the same thing. It's such a turnoff.
There's a disconnect, but between live networking and then social media or anything online. I think people have put up a wall that there's a difference. And sure, there are some obvious differences, but a relationship is a relationship.
Right.
And I think there's rules to that we can follow that will serve us so well in the dream. And it has worked so well for me. And then on the other point of that too, I think whenever possible, the fastest you can take an online relationship offline. So after you've connected, you've messaged, and if they're local, if you can get a one-on-one meeting with somebody, whether that's a lunch, breakfast, power coffee, happy hours are always fun, an actual networking event, something along those lines, that can serve you really well too.
Really, think about it as like a whole cohesive ecosystem, because you're not just operating on LinkedIn. I love what you said, because you think about how does it work within the whole framework of how you engage with people. So thinking about if you are going to a live event, converting all of those live connections, don't just grab the business card and leave, but make sure you're connecting with them after and following up. And then, and it's like a two-way street. So maybe you meet someone at an event, maybe you meet someone on a Zoom call, maybe you met them on Twitter, whatever it might be. If you're really going to deepen relationships, typically you want to be having a lot of friendly touch points with that prospect, right?
Yeah. As many opportunities for them to get to know you, like you, and trust you.
Right.
I love that. Can we talk a little bit about engagement and maybe even some content while we're
Absolutely.
I think we're both
That's the word,
passionate
is
about
engagement. It's not just, it's funny because I think some people have the attitude that, oh, I've just got to post, but engagement is even more important. So I'll let you take it from there.
Well, so thank you. And engagement for me, again, one of my daily do's, one of those daily habits that I did every day is I would take, what I called tickling or pinging 10 people from my prospect list, for lack of a better word. I called it my Fab 100. And it was just people that I wanted to support in their business. I wanted to be involved in what they were doing. I wanted us to work together. That was kind of what I was putting out there. So I would find their own posts. I would interact and engage with their posts. I would like them, comment on them deeply, not just with one word like "this is great" or anything like that. I mean, that absolutely works, but I tried to go a little deeper to show some understanding about what they were posting or some passion about what they were posting, link it into some of my own experiences, whatever that might be, and then share it if it was appropriate on my own page. That's how I would engage with them. And then sometimes there's an opportunity to private message. And one of my other favorite ways is to celebrate their wins with them. The vice presidents of companies love to brag on their employees. So they'd post it on LinkedIn and I would participate in that. There would be, they would post their employment needs and I would go above and beyond. Like number one, I love connecting people. That's just a passion of mine. I know this person needs this, I know this person needs that, and I'll try to connect them. I know people are looking for employment all the time in my network. So I'm always taking that on and sharing that and broadcasting it as much as I can. So that's the kind of interaction I did to get my foot in the door and show that I'm here. I'm part of the team. I'm win-win. I'm in it for them.
Yeah. Celebration is great. I mean, think about it. Any good news, it's an opportunity to share it, to make a comment, and there's good news everywhere. So it could, just like you said, it could be a company that's expanding, some news you see about some team development, programs that companies with new products. It could be whatever that, and I love that you've got the Fab 100. That's a really great way to focus on specific targeted people that you care about and really celebrate with them their success. Maybe your friend wrote a book or got a new job or whatever it might be. Those are great things. And I love to also do what I call a gratitude post, which is think every single week I have so much to be grateful for, whether someone interviewed me on a podcast or someone referred me, or there's just a lot of different wonderful things happening. And I try to be very conscious. What can I be grateful for this week, and how can I post about it or share that gratitude? Because it kind of ties in with the celebration. It's kind of like the cousin of celebration is gratitude, right?
Absolutely. There's always gratitude. And what I love, one of my favorite quotes now is that gratitude and complaint cannot survive in the same sentence. So if you focus on gratitude, there's always something to talk about there. And your passion. I would imagine that we're in this work for a reason. We're passionate about something. Either it's the outcome and the goal that it's helping us achieve, or it's the actual work itself. There's always something to talk about as far as posts and interacting with others for that too. And passion's contagious. So if you are passionate about what you're doing, you are probably attracting others that are equally as passionate about what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. I love that.
So let's blend that even more into the content, because LinkedIn gives us so many options for delivering value to our ideal customers. So can you maybe elaborate a little bit about what the content options are for LinkedIn?
Oh, I love this question, Bill. I love it. All right. So the framework here is that 80% of my time I want to spend engaging with other people, right? And then the 20%, which I might be creating content, I love the options, and the options keep growing. So we have a regular post, which you see in the home feed. And that regular post, you can add an image, You can add a link, right? You can add a document. So those are all, and document posts are meaning like PDF or PowerPoint. We've only really had that for about a year and a half. And a lot of people aren't aware. That's a really nice post. You can write an article, which is like a long form blog article. You can do stories, which is on your mobile device. You can do video. Video can be native video. You can do LinkedIn Live. And you can do polls, which I love. So, actually creating a poll. I'm not even sure if I've mentioned them all, but just what's happened, particularly in the last year, we've gotten a lot of new options. So just in the last, say, year, since really the beginning of the time from COVID, polls came out, stories came out, they've expanded things to do with live. So it's been pretty exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait. So I just the other day, I didn't realize you had to apply for the the LinkedIn Live capability. So I just applied for that. And I'm really excited about that, especially with the new changes that are coming out where that live feed can run in your cover as a cover video. I'm really kind of excited about that.
Yeah, it's actually going to run as your background banner.
Yeah. Nice.
The cover video is another new feature that's going to be where your headshot is.
Oh, wow. Yeah, see, there's so many cool things coming out.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things. And I think you'll be a perfect person for LinkedIn Live because of all of your broadcasting that you've done. And they look for that. They look for someone like you who, you've got your YouTube and you've got, podcasts, all the different broadcasting you do. You'll be a perfect candidate to get LinkedIn Live.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'll have to come up with some original content. But this is also what's triggering a question. I know there's people listening thinking, all right, so maybe I could get bought into LinkedIn. Realistically, guys, any kind of business you're in, there's a really good chance that your ideal customers are on LinkedIn. The decision makers in corporations, the professionals that you might be serving, like attorneys. We work a lot with escrow officers, branch managers of everything, any type of C-level executive. They're probably on LinkedIn. So it can be a gold mine for your business. But Sandra, I know a lot of people struggle with, should they have a personal profile or should they just build a business profile? Can you quickly clarify the importance of the personal
Yes.
profile?
So the number one asset you have for your brand on LinkedIn is your personal profile. Now, I know some people say, well, I want to really be here for business. Well, that's true, but it's still your number one asset. And so that personal profile should have everything about you. So you don't create multiple profiles. You don't create your profile that, without your name. Like I've seen some people sign up for LinkedIn and they put their business name on their, that's not allowed. You have to use your actual name. And business is personal, right? Business relationships. So it is your personal profile as your number one asset. I do like the LinkedIn company pages if you have a business, and I do love the idea of, creating that page and having a nice page and using that page, but it should not be the number one for most of us, right? It really should be around your personal profile because that's where you're going to be connecting. That's where people are going to remember you. That's where the trust and the likability comes in, is with a personal profile.
Absolutely. If you're working in any kind of service industry, guys, people do business with people, not necessarily the company page. They're going to do business. If you're in a fingerprinting business or the notary business or the loan officer business, whatever it is, people can go anywhere for those products. The thing that differentiates you from others is very oftentimes you. It's your personality. It's your unique experiences that you bring to the table. It's your passion behind it. They have got to see that. You have to give them the ability to get to know you, like you, and trust you. If you're in this business and you have that obstacle where you don't want your face on social media, you don't want to manage this, you don't want to put the time and effort into building your own personal profile, I encourage you to take yourself on there. Get over that. It will pay off for you in this business. And it's critical, not just on LinkedIn, but any type of industry directory that you might be on. All of that is going to require this information. LinkedIn just happens to give you a lot more room than some of these other directories, so you can really expand on and really use the language to sell yourself, your services, and your passion for your business.
Well, and that's a great point, Bill. I mean, yes, there's other directories, but think about where your prospects are. Most of them are going to be on LinkedIn. So that's why I love, the idea of that being your central first starting point.
Exactly. And that just reminded me too, is LinkedIn has this huge user base. How many people are on LinkedIn now, Sandra, approximately?
It keeps growing. It's over 750 million right now.
750 million people on it. It has been around I just saw them celebrate a birthday, Sandra, but I can't remember how many.
Well, so 2003, so it just celebrated 18 years.
18.
And so think about those 750 million people, Bill. Those are people, if you compare them to any other social media platform, they're the most educated and affluent people and the most informed, because people come on LinkedIn not only to build connections, but they come on to learn, like professionally learn about what's happening in their industry, right? Or what's happening with people they know. So those are the kind of people that can afford to hire you for your side hustle, right? Because they're going to be more affluent than the average person.
Absolutely. And then that leads right into the search engine optimization component too. LinkedIn has 18 years of building trust and relevance with the search engines. So when you search for somebody's name, if you search for a type of role or a position, there's a really good chance. You can try it on Google right now. Search for anybody. There's a really good chance that their LinkedIn profile is going to be in the top 5 of those listings. So when you are optimized in your LinkedIn profile, you get a lot of search or SEO weight on that too. So this is something that we should absolutely take so seriously. Now, Sandra, did you have anything that you wanted to expand on with that before I move on to our final subject?
Just one thing on the SEO or just being found. Having a skeleton profile will not help you that much. So if you just have, your name and where you work and where you went to school, it's not going to give you the power. So you really want to fill in all the fields so that LinkedIn will display, it will be more optimized for search, whether someone's looking for you in Google or whether someone's looking for you in LinkedIn.
Excellent suggestion. So let's talk about that a little bit more, because I think one of the most disappointing circumstances I come across is a LinkedIn profile first with no profile picture. So I'd love for you to expand on that. But then second, using that essay or the narrative section either as a simple or very simple just resume, or just not taking advantage of it at all, not telling a story. So can you expand on the importance of those two features?
Yes. So your brand is going to be impacted by the words and the language that you select, as well as the visual. And the most important two aspects, well, actually, there's three aspects that I'd say are the most important, which is your headshot, your essay, the about essay, and then also your headline. So those three pieces I would put up as very important that oftentimes people miss. So your headshot, you want to have a great smile, and you want to have it be, your shoulders and up and current. I often see profiles that have headshots that look nothing like the person. Maybe it was from 30 years ago or something. So have a great headshot. You'll feel really great and confident by having that. And then the next two pieces, the headline and the about essay, those are where you can use your words to create that impression. And of course, it should be accurate, but you're really bringing out what's most important about you. And especially, this audience is a side hustle audience, right? So using your words to really position yourself. You could be someone who works at a company during the week and you have a side hustle on the weekends, right? So, or you could be someone who is juggling 3 different opportunities, right? You could be in any one of those. So the way you describe yourself is going to be really important. So that headline, which has expanded, this is another thing that happened over the last year of the pandemic, is the headline is now 100 additional characters. So it used to be you could have basically like 2 lines, which is 120 characters, and now you can go to 220. So really think about how do you describe yourself. That's an immediate impression people get of your headline. And then the about section, which is the essay, this is a huge missed opportunity because people, I don't know, they don't want to take the time. They think of it as a resume, but your prospects and clients, why we don't want to make it hard for them to figure out how you can help them. Let's make it easy and really be friendly, but share kind of your passion and how can you help your customers, and how, especially if you're doing different side hustles, how does it all work together? Yeah. Does that make sense, Bill?
Totally. That's the key. And it's our responsibility to do that. And I know for me in particular, I'm a multi-potentialite serial entrepreneur. What does that mean? It means I have a lot of interests and all of my hobbies end up turning into businesses. That's just part of who I am. I embrace that now. Sometimes I've heard another term for this is multi-hyphenate, meaning you've got all kinds of different roles and titles that you've taken on. And the headline is so critical for that. Sometimes that's all we see when we get these connection requests. And I'm looking for relatability. Like, why does this person want to, why would this relationship make sense? And then if you include the personal note, that's even better. But then if I go into your profile and you're telling me a story about why you're passionate to help people like me, and you blend your different careers or your different passions or your different businesses together into just because you're passionate or they all link. If you can connect the dots for me, then we're connecting. And then I'm interested and I want to learn more about what it is that you're doing.
Well, sure. I mean, I love it. The idea of, kind of giving yourself a headline that is bigger than just like all these little piece parts, because those little piece parts are going to confuse people. Well, he does this, he does that, he does this, he does that. What does he really do? And so another example would be someone who is involved in a lot of creative activities. So instead of, maybe you call yourself a creator, maybe you call yourself more of a communication expert. And within that, you've got the various different businesses that you help people with communications, right? So there's just different ways to think about yourself, not just that job you do. Like, I do this job, I do that job, I do this job, but how do you really define it in a larger way?
I love that you brought this up too. We got a chance to talk to the members of your LinkedIn club earlier this week about this very topic. And sometimes it's real easy to get caught up. Is like, oh yes, this is what I do. This is the job that I have. Well, I invite you to pan up a little bit, pan up a lot more if you need to show what's the bigger picture. What role you feel if you have, I talk a lot about notaries because that's my world, but if you're a notary public and you're a fingerprinting expert and you're a wedding officiant and you travel to make people, or give people their time back, then you can come up with a title that's like personal mobile services, something along those lines that kind of shows like, holy cow, this is somebody who's on the road making my life easier. And they just happen to do all these different things for me. And every industry has a way to do that.
I love the example of personal mobile services. That's fantastic.
I might have to jump on that, get that .com real quick.
That's good. It's really good.
Now, since we're talking about different ventures and how this stuff happens, Sandra, I've always been a little curious because you are a LinkedIn expert, but you weren't born a LinkedIn expert. So I wondered if you'd be willing to share, considering that you are the first person to do a TEDx talk on the power of LinkedIn and community. I wonder, how did you get involved in LinkedIn? What made you say, yeah, LinkedIn's where it's at. I'm going to be the expert on that.
Well, I was a very early adopter. I joined LinkedIn in 2005. And I remember it because I think I read about it in the newspaper. That was back when we actually had newspapers.
Right. Tell me about the newspaper first.
No, really, we used to have newspapers, and I read about it was a startup. They were talking about the startup, and I got on it, and really, of course, lots developed since then. But for me, I originally went on there because thinking that there's be career opportunities, right? Different career opportunities. Now, I had a very wonderful sales career for many, many years. And I ended up finding that I didn't really change my careers, except I moved around internally within this large company. But I used it to learn about people. And I could find people, I could learn a little bit about their background. And to me, that research was gold because it meant that I could have a better conversation because I knew a little bit about them. Before that, I had no way to find out where they went to school or maybe where they used to work or who we had in common. But now when I got on the phone or when I went to a meeting, I felt like I could have a warmer start to a conversation. So I started doing that. And then over time, I just developed my, natural interest in it, and profiles have changed a lot. And everything about the platform has changed dramatically since 2005. But I just went on that ride. And then I found with the large company that I was working for, many of my friends from the company, colleagues, would ask me, can you help me with LinkedIn? They were seeing it was becoming more relevant for salespeople, for business people. So I was helping people, just helping them. And then I started my business in 2013 because there was so much demand. Like so many people were interested in learning how to do it better. In fact, that's the one quality I'll say for most LinkedIn users, no matter who you are, if you feel like you're a beginner, you're really not alone because most people feel that way. And so that's what I kind of jumped into in 2013. And then I did the TEDx in 19, started writing books about it, and it's been fantastic for me.
I love that story. I mean, it really is having the courage to jump into something new, learn it, seeing an opportunity and taking it. And the way you used LinkedIn is exactly how I used LinkedIn in my daily dues. And I talk about this a little bit in my book, Sign and Thrive. I know I talk about how your first book, LinkedIn for Personal Branding, The Ultimate Guide, changed my life. It changed how I used LinkedIn, and it really enhanced my game. But that's exactly what I would do. I use LinkedIn to research the people on my Fab 100 list, so I could find a way to connect with them that was allowed for a different conversation than most people do. Because most people who are reaching out to introduce themselves talk about themselves the entire time, and all they talk about is this templated format that is selling their services. So my conversation's got to be different. I could talk about them. I could talk about their whatever they're celebrating, their goals, whatever they're sharing on LinkedIn, where they went to school. If I could relate to it anyway, that's what I was talking about. And one of my biggest fears, it still is a very uncomfortable thing for me, is cold calls. And one of the businesses that I tanked was a business that needed cold calls. All I had to do, I would have made millions of dollars if I could have gotten over my fear of making cold calls to luxury homeowners to create vacation rentals out of their homes. But I was so terrified of that I think I made one phone call in the 6 years that I owned that business. I had that much fear around it. So I knew when I became, when I decided to take on my mobile notary business, I knew I had to find a way to get business without making cold calls. And the way I did that was to warm them up. And LinkedIn allowed me to do that. And that's how I was able to thrive in this.
Totally. It is the best way to warm people up is to care about them, know about them, talk about them. Absolutely. Love it.
Sandra, thank you so much for sharing, again, so much of your expertise, but also a little bit about your origin story and how you came to be the LinkedIn expert that you are. I love that we have connected. So thank you so much for all of your support and being here for our audience today.
Thanks, Bill. This was really fun. It's always fun talking to you, Bill.
Likewise. All right. We'll catch you next time.